In this episode today, President Trump calls out Bank of America and JP Morgan. Also, the FBI is now involved in tracking down House Democrats out of Texas. And CNN is trying their best to downplay the Russia hoax investigation. In all of these stories, we're going to show you what both sides are saying and give you the bottom line.
On a different topic, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that you're prepping an order that they say would punish banks that discriminate against conservatives, including potentially Bank of America. I'm going to be actually talking to Brian Moynihan here later today. Can you tell us about that executive order? What's in that? And what do you think the banks have done?
Well, they did discriminate. I had J.P. Morgan Chase. I had hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. I could see if they want to... if they want to do something bad because you don't have any money and you're defaulted and they took people out. But I'll give you me as an example. I had hundreds of millions. I had many accounts loaded up with cash. I was loaded up with cash. And they told me, I'm sorry, sir, we can't have you. You have 20 days to get out. I said, you got to be kidding. I've been with you for 35, 40 years.
Yeah, so it's no secret that this happened to President Trump, including conservatives during the Biden administration. So finally, the president is getting around to signing an executive order to hold these banks accountable. Now, remember, when Melania Trump published her book, inside there, she shared her experience, how not only her, but Barron Trump both were debanked. So this brings us to Ground News today, because what's fascinating about this story is the media's reaction. Now, we use Ground News to show you both sides, as always, so you can do your own thinking and make up your own mind about what you believe to be true. And what's fascinating about this story, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at Ground News, 58% of the outlets that lean right are covering this story, and less than 10% of outlets that lean left are covering this story, meaning Democrats don't want to talk about this because this absolutely makes them hypocritical and contradicts everything they want people to believe when it comes to what they say they stand for. Now, here's more what the president had to say.
I call up Bank of America routinely because when I was president, this was after I got out, by the way, I call up Bank of America routinely, and I speak to him, and I speak to a couple of people, and they have zero interest. Brian was kissing my ass when I was president. And when I called him after I was president to deposit $1 billion plus and a lot of other things, more importantly to open accounts, which banks always like. They like accounts because they get interest-free, the overnights and things, a lot of reasons for it. But they like accounts. I had hundreds of accounts. And he said, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. So I went to another one. I ended up going to small banks all over the place. I mean, I was putting 10 million here, 10 million there, did 5 million, 10 million, 12 million. I have them all over the place, the craziest thing. And it's lucky I even had them. They were doing me a favor. And that's because the banks discriminated against me very badly.
Now, the two banks in question are JP Morgan and Bank of America. And here's the thing that I definitely want to share with you guys that I find to be crazy about what he is saying, is that if a president, his first lady, and his son all can be debanked, what could they do to people like you and me? That's the issue here. So while the left, who clearly don't want to talk about it, according to Ground News here, they say that Trump is bullying these banks. That's not what's happening. The banks are getting exactly what they deserve. They're being held accountable. And quite frankly, banks have been getting off scot-free for decades now, okay, as Americans continue to get the short end of the stick. Now, that's the way that I see it. But what about you? This is why I'm showing you guys Ground News. You guys can do your own research, see what the full picture is, make up your own mind. But let me know what you guys think about this story in the comments section below. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you can download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
And I believe what they did is they went to the regulators. Banks are not afraid of anything but a regulator. They're regulators and their wives. They're more afraid of their wives than the regulators. But the group they're really afraid of is bank regulators. And I believe that Biden or Kamala, and I don't think they're smart enough to do it, but the people that are surrounding the beautiful Resolute desk, the high IQ people that are radical left, I believe they told the banking commission, the bankers, that the banking regulators, do everything you can to destroy Trump. And that's what they did. And guess what? I'm president. How did that happen?
Yeah,
Okay, so that was the president and his interview earlier this morning with CNBC. And the bottom line is he's going to be signing an executive order today to hold these banks accountable. Don't let people tell you that this is him trying to bully banks. That's so far from the truth. Finally, someone's going to try to hold these banks accountable for so much of not only the scams they've been involved in, the corruption they've been involved in, and how they've gotten off scot-free every step of the way for many, many years. All right, so now let's go to our next story, and this is huge. So the FBI is now involved when it comes to this fight between House Democrats at the state level in Texas and Republicans. As you know, the governor issued a warning to these legislators. They still refused to show up when they were supposed to show up. And of course, his jurisdiction, his authority does not obviously exceed the state of Texas. So they have solicited the help of the FBI to find these people and arrest them and bring them back to Texas. Now, before we get to more on that, let's first hear from Jasmine Crockett. Take a look.
Joining us now for more is Texas Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Congresswoman, thank you so much, as always, for joining us. Governor Abbott just announced that he has ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to find and arrest the House Democrats who have fled the state. You're in the Chicago area with some of those Democratic representatives. What's the plan with them? Obviously, at some point, you have to return to the state of Texas eventually. So ultimately, does it seem that it's a foregone conclusion that this bill will pass?
I don't say ultimately. I never say ultimately because I don't have a give up attitude whatsoever. But right now, the governor has decided that he wants to waste more of Texans' resources by deciding that he's going to send out the troopers. And listen, I don't even think that he's going to do that. I think he's just talking. Earlier today, I posted a copy of the warrant that was signed by the speaker, because it's the Speaker of the House that can put the call on the House, not the governor. And no one came to get me last time. In fact, it is a cute little warrant that has a cute little frame on it. And so they like to talk a big game, but the reality is that, number one, you have a lot of intelligent attorneys that actually serve in the Texas House. And so they know that there's nothing that he can do outside of the Texas jurisdiction to bring them in. This is one of the reasons they are in another state. His authority does not extend throughout the entirety of the United States. So he's just talking the big talk so that, he can rile up his base. Ultimately, what will happen, we don't know.
Well, unfortunately for Jasmine Crockett, there's a couple things she is leaving out, and it actually supports the idea that she has no idea what she's talking about. Number one, this threat from Governor Abbott has nothing to do with members of Congress. It has to do with the members who are part of the Texas House of Representatives, the state level. That's number one, okay? Number two, as you guys see here on the screen, a letter was sent to the FBI Director, Kash Patel. In the first sentence, it says, "I write to encourage the FBI to take any appropriate steps to aid in Texas state law enforcement efforts to locate or arrest potential lawbreakers who have fled the state." Now, again, he doesn't have the jurisdiction, but the FBI does. Now, this was actually signed by Senator Cornyn, who sent this letter. And of course, it is endorsed by Governor Abbott. So she might want to rethink her strategy after hearing about that.
Democrat Party is self-destructing. I mean, when you have low IQ people like Crockett, I wonder if she's in a relationship to the late, great Davy Crockett, who was a great gentleman. I wonder if she's got any relationship to Davy Crockett, the great old Davy Crockett. But you have this woman Crockett. She's a very low IQ person. Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. The Democrats are lost. They have Trump derangement syndrome so bad that they can't walk. They can't talk. They don't know where they're going. Schumer is finished. Schumer, look, I watched him the other day. He's lost all of his confidence.
Yeah, so that's what the president had to say. And what's fascinating about all this is really the reason why Jasmine Crockett is the loudest on this particular issue of redistricting, because it affects her directly. Her own district is going to change, which means she might be out of a job. So here she is panicking on ABC. Take a listen.
Yeah, so my district, what they did is they did a thing that they packed my district up, and then they cracked minorities from another community. And so what they've did is they've increased the number of African Americans in my district. But while they were cracking out persons from another community and packing them into my community, they also removed all the economic engines, which is yet another red flag. This means that I don't have Southwest Airlines or JSX Airlines or Dallas Love Airport or Downtown or AT&T or Goldman Sachs, and the list goes on, of amazing companies and corporations that I'm typically bringing in to make sure that we can talk about economic opportunities for the people that live in my district, including getting rid of the medical center in my district as well.
In response to this plan, we've seen Democrats in states like New York and California say that they would look into redistricting as well. Would you encourage them to do that?
I absolutely do. We are in a fight for the soul of this country.
I don't understand how you're going to gerrymander something that's already been gerrymandered, if that's the proper term. Okay, I don't see how California can do any more damage. They've already done the damage that one could do, right? It's a supermajority. What else can Illinois do? What else could New York do? We know Republicans are not going to control those states right now. That's a fact. So I don't know why they believe that threat or that reaction is worth anything. I'm not buying it, and I'm sure you are not either. And the main issue here still, and I brought it up yesterday, is that the state Democrats in the House of Texas, their problem is the longer they're away, that means they're not actually serving the people who got them elected in the first place.
And as you know, that means that there is other legislation that's going to be the victim of that. And that includes this bill for flood assistance for those Texans who were impacted by those devastating floods on July 4th. Are you concerned that all of this could ultimately be a mistake if that legislation also becomes a victim of this?
This is a Republican talking point. I'm concerned that Greg Abbott decided to play politics with flood victims and their families. The only emergency that we should be coming to the state capitol to address is flood mitigation and disaster prevention. That's what Texans want us to focus on. It's why my Democratic colleagues and I showed up on the first day of the special legislative session 2 weeks ago. We begged our Republican colleagues to prioritize flood victims and their families, and they refused.
But the reality is, Representative, the reality is the consequence of the decision, regardless of whether or not it's a talking point, is that this bill is not going to advance. Is that a bad thing if this bill doesn't advance?
And who put flood mitigation after redistricting on the agenda?
The Republicans. They control the floor. Exactly. They have made that decision. Exactly. But there will be consequences to your decision here, too. Will there not?
And you know why they did that is so that they could play politics with those flood victims, so that they could pressure us to give away our constituents' voices in the democratic process. They're using flood victims to try to get us to agree to these corrupt maps so they can rig the next election. We are not willing to sacrifice the American experiment. We begged them to prioritize flood victims, and they refused to do so. This is cynical politics at its worst.
Bottom line is this. The House Republicans of Texas, they are doing what's exactly in their authority to do. It's nothing new. The only criticism, if there is one, is that they're doing it halfway through the 10-year period that they normally would be exercising when it comes to redrawing congressional districts. But is that a criticism worth all Democrats getting involved, getting these reactions from the governors and creating this entire spectacle? Absolutely not. So it's Democrats who have not only weaponized this issue, it's Democrats who have politicized this issue, it's Democrats who are playing the real games here. Now, let's go a step further. I'm going to show you one side of this issue coming from Jessica on Fox News. I know you don't like her opinion, but I'm going to show it to you because here's her reaction. Take a listen.
But it doesn't change the facts on the ground. There was a bill in 2021 that all the Democrats supported that would have had a national ban on redistricting in this way, and all the Republicans opposed it. I also heard no complaints from any Republican when Mike Johnson, just a couple weeks ago, decided to abdicate his job to say, actually, Congress isn't in session anymore because I don't want to have to vote on turning over the Epstein files, the bill put forward by Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. He said, let's go home rather than talk about the fact that Donald Trump may or may not have been in there.
All right.
So be equal opportunity in your complaints about fleeing your job. At least they're doing this for a good reason.
Tommy?
Yeah, so there we go. That's what Democrats do best. They deflect. She wants to focus on Epstein. She wants to blame it on President Trump instead of focusing on the fact today that what House Republicans in Texas are doing, like I said earlier, it's not illegal, okay? It's in their authority to do. And why Democrats believe it's smart to flee the state when they know legislation is on the table to help flood victims is beyond me. Now, of course, Tomi Lahren does respond, and I think she rips her. Take a listen.
First of all, the Democrat Party has been reduced to essentially a social media stunt at this point. That's the only way they can get any attention. It's not through legislation. It's not through ideas or policy. It's through stunts, whether it's getting arrested at a press conference or outside of an ICE facility or skipping work to go to Illinois. Also, the hypocrisy here for Democrats now to clutch their pearls when Republicans play the same way that they've been playing is really rich. Please spare me. Also incredibly hypocritical. Democrats had no problem for a 4-year span of time importing millions and millions of people into blue sanctuary states and cities to pad their numbers, to pad the census. But now they want to cry wolf and they want to cry crocodile tears because Republicans want to draw new maps in Texas. Democrats would do it every single time. They don't like it that Republicans are playing the same game. We learned from you. We're going to be cutthroat like Democrats, and we're going to win where we can.
Yeah, I mean, what I see is...
That is the reality. It is politics. It is cutthroat. Nobody should be surprised about what's happening. And unless it's illegal, which it's not, there's nothing really to talk about. But this is how Democrats act. Okay. Now, to back up what Tomi Lahren was saying, pay attention here to Texas Representative Al Green, who has probably filed more articles of impeachment against President Trump than he has when it comes to filing pieces of legislation that would serve his constituents.
This president is going to, he's going to be brought down. He's going to be brought down. He has to be brought down. And I don't mean physically. I'm talking about politically. We will bring him down. He will be impeached again. What's happening in Texas is invidious discrimination. It is racial. My dear friends, it is racist. It is. And we have to say it. We have to say it. That's what it is. I know it when I see it. I know it when I smell it. I know it when I hear it. And we have a duty, a responsibility, and an obligation to stand up to it. All of us.
Well, the only way that's possible is if Democrats obviously win the midterms. That's number one. Number two, just like Tomi Lahren was saying, this party is just a bunch of stunts. Again, like I said, he has filed more articles of impeachment than he has pieces of legislation to help his constituents. I think that tells the real story about who Al Green is currently in this whole drama series called The Desperate Democrats of Congress. All right, now let's move to our next story, and this is breaking as well. So the House Oversight Committee is now issuing subpoenas to people like Hillary Clinton in this entire Russia hoax situation. We know a grand jury is currently reviewing evidence to approve an indictment against who. We don't know that yet. But that is currently taking place. Now, let's hear more details on this update. Take a look.
House Oversight Committee issuing subpoenas for 10 high-profile people connected with the Jeffrey Epstein case. Here are the people on the list, and it is long. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Merrick Garland, James Comey, William Barr, Robert Mueller, Eric Holder, and also a few others here, including Loretta Lynch and Jeff Sessions. Now, the news comes as a report reveals that the Department of Justice is also considering releasing an audio recording and a transcript of the interview conducted with Ghislaine Maxwell, of course, just days ago. Will this lead to the release of the Epstein files?
Well, that seems to be the big question. And one of the other big questions, what happens if some of these people don't show? Will they also be thrown in prison like a Steve Bannon, for an example? it'd be interesting to see how this all shakes out. Now, I'll be shocked if Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton shows up. Okay, I really will. And the other thing here is, even if they do show up, they could just plead the fifth. That's what we've been seeing from a lot of Biden aides at this point in time. So I'm not too sure we're going to get anything out of them if we are looking for answers surrounding Epstein. Okay.
When the Democrats were in charge, during the first Trump term, they pushed back at subpoena after subpoena. This is a subpoena they don't want. Will they comply?
It's unclear. Historically, the Justice Department doesn't like to hand sensitive material over to folks on the Hill because they leak. And this is something they're uncomfortable with releasing on their own terms. So it would surprise me if they were willing to comply with this very extensive, very broad subpoena. But there's something else that's happening here, and Lauren touched on it. I mean, this also has the purpose of trying to spread responsibility for the current political firestorm they are facing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the result of Attorney General Pam Bondi promising more transparency and then backtracking. It is the second in a series of major PR blunders she has made related to the Epstein files. The last one was promising new material in binders that didn't have new material. So it gives them an opportunity to maybe comply a little bit, make it look like they're playing ball. But when I look at this list of people, these are all folks that, in addition to the Justice Department subpoena, when you talk about Jeff Sessions, Robert Mueller, Loretta Lynch, these are all people who President Trump is not happy with, that he would be glad to try to share some of the blame with. I don't see former acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker on this list. So I think they're not happy about this, but this is also part of a PR effort to spread blame when really we all know who's to blame for the larger crisis here.
Yeah, and to soften the blow. That's why all these people were added onto this. The Clintons, of course.
Okay, so you guys heard CNN's perspective on this, and I'm likely to buy into some of it. I mean, let's just be honest. Pam Bondi did overpromise and then underdelivered. And so are they intentionally issuing these subpoenas as a distraction? I'm not necessarily willing to buy that, but I am buying the fact that because Pam Bondi botched this so bad, she has a lot of work to do in this particular area to clean up the credibility or the transparency surrounding all of this.
I don't know why they subpoenaed Mrs. Clinton in this. I can understand them subpoenaing her if they were investigating Russiagate, but I don't know what she has to do with this. However, the House Oversight Committee has also issued a subpoena to the Justice Department for the entire Epstein file with only the names of victims redacted. According to Pam Bondi, that is a truckload of documents. Now, how does this work? Well, there are investigators who work for the House Oversight Committee. Most of them are former FBI agents themselves. They are familiar with going through documents of this nature. They're going to start going through what is probably 250,000 pages of documents and decide what is going to be published or not. Now, this sounds like something the Democrats would have done to Donald Trump, but Republicans are doing it in response to MAGA. Republicans are doing it in response to MAGA pressure being put on them.
Okay, well, here's the bottom line to it. As you guys know, there is meat on the bone as it pertains to not only this investigation, but what has been exposed up to this point that confirms what we've already known all along, that the government, Democrats, agencies conspired against a sitting president of the United States. There is no question about that. Now, the question is who's going to be held accountable? That's what actually matters here. That's why I see in my comment section and on X, the number one question is always, well, who's going to get arrested, right? I mean, when are we going to announce an actual indictment on somebody? But it's pending, by the way, guys. And I'm with you on that. Now, here is Van Jones on CNN doing what all Democrats are doing about this entire story, which is attempting to downplay it. Take a listen.
Well, half the country believes a lot of dumb stuff, including a lot of dumb stuff that comes from Republicans, but nobody's trying to put anybody in prison over it. Listen, we live in a. They
tried to put Donald Trump in jail, Van.
Hold on a second. They tried to put Donald Trump in jail over stuff that he got indicted for, but the country went ahead and reelected him anyway. Look, my point is this. It is in fact the case. People believe a lot of wacky stuff and nutty stuff in my party and in your party. That is very different from the Department of Justice saying they're going to put somebody in prison over it. That's a different world. We've not been in a world before. Listen, you served in the White House. I served in the White House. The idea you're going to somehow now go to jail because people misinterpreted what you did in there, I think this is very, very scary stuff, man.
Okay, so as you can see, they're downplaying this. They don't think anything is there. let alone a crime. And I guess my question for you guys, please put your answers in the comment section. Do you believe crimes were committed against President Trump in his first term? Particularly these agencies, Hillary Clinton and her camp, Obama and his officials. Do you believe somebody somewhere committed an actual crime? Let me know. I believe a crime was committed. I'm just not sure if there's evidence still alive today to prove that, because we know if you're talking about these intelligence agencies, they're not just going to leave evidence out there like that. Okay, they're going to cover their tracks. Now, to kind of make my point for me, here is CNN's legal analyst basically questioning whether or not a crime was committed. He doesn't think so.
So that's my question. I know I'm here to answer questions. What's the crime? I mean, what's even the potential crime? Seriously, I mean, I'm not trying to be confrontational here. Can anyone at this table even articulate what the potential crime might be?
I mean, election interference, manufactured intelligence,
not a crime, not a
deprivation
crime.
of
You're
voter
0 for 2.
rights, obstruction of justice, false statements.
you've said a crime now. What is obstruction of justice?
And anything the grand jury says it is.
No, and to that point, let me further say with this.
Most of these crimes have a statute of limitation of 5
There
years.
you go. That's where I was going next.
So that's
right?
the problem.
I mean, this is ancient history legally, right? The statute of limitations on almost every federal crime is 5 years. This stuff was 9 years ago.
There's an ongoing conspiracy, and so that could
Sure. If there's an ongoing conspiracy that
limitations.
stretches into 5 years ago, then you would not have a statute of limitations problem. The crimes that Tulsi Gabbard has articulated, I don't know if she's a lawyer, she's definitely not at the Justice Department, are treason and sedition. I mean, that means trying to overthrow the government and waging war against the United States. We are so far out over the edge here with this.
I don't think we're far out from the ledge on this. I mean, just look at what they did with President Trump January 6th. They spied on his campaign. We know Hillary Clinton and her messiness, including the email server and then the people making up the Steele dossier. I mean, we can go on and on and on. It's not just President Trump. It's other political figures who are on the right, conservative, even people who are nobodies who went to prison over January 6th, but were never there. Even people who were uploading memes about Hillary Clinton were sent to prison. Okay, so I don't want to hear it from Democrats that this is a stretch, and I definitely don't want to give any attention to the idea that they are the victims in all of this.
Say that these people ought to have nothing to worry about, but why shouldn't we look into it? The people who complain about misinformation and disinformation all the time, why does half the country believe something that didn't happen? My view is that it has become obvious that what happened as Donald Trump was coming in and Barack Obama was going out bears some amount of investigation. And again, if you're right, all these people, they should have nothing to worry about. But there's a lot of people out there that have looked at this and decided that, intelligence was changed and ignored, and there were career people in the intelligence services saying we can't use the Steele dossier and so on and so forth. So at some point, people are just asking, how do you get accountability? Why does half the country believe Russia stole an election? Where is the accountability for that? Did people abuse their positions? Did they perjure themselves? Did they willfully mislead the American people? How do you get accountability for it? That's the question.
What do you guys think about these stories in this video today? Let's talk about Al Green, the representative out of Texas, who continues to file more articles of impeachment against President Trump than pieces of legislation for his constituents. What's your reaction to that? Also, what is your reaction to the FBI now involved in tracking down these House Democrats of Texas and potentially arresting them in order to bring them back to Texas? What do you make of the president calling out J.P. Morgan and Bank of America as he is prepared to issue an executive order to hold these banks accountable for pretty much debanking conservatives, including him and his family? Just let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, now in our next video, if you guys missed out on the story about how a grand jury has been ordered to review the evidence surrounding the Russia hoax and the pending indictment that might be coming down, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.